So I have a Star Wars short shirt because last week there was, of course, May the 4th, and I didn't actually do anything because of it. I watched some Star Wars stuff, I guess. But also I'm going to be talking about Chopper and Wapol, and they both come from Drum Island, and that's a winter island, and Chopper's birthday is, Christmas Eve and all that fun stuff. So I figured Joy to the Galaxy with Baby Yoda. Uh, it made sense in my head. If you have a problem with it, that's your problem. Um, so, um, last week or thereabouts, I did a video where I talked about Nami being reunited with Arlong or having to face Arlong again in regards to like facing the demons from her past. And I kind of thought of like, well, what other Straw Hats kind of have that like antagonists in their past that cause them a lot of pain that they haven't really gotten the chance to like deal with yet. Like I was like, well, not so much Luffy. I mean, like there was like Blue Jam and like Higama, but Higama got eaten. Blue Jam is dead, I'm pretty sure. There's a few other ones, but not really too many that Luffy didn't end up getting to like actually face down himself and deal the final blow to, and a lot of the other antagonists that he's dealt with. Um, Zoro doesn't really have any specific characters in his past that would have been like, oh, this person stole my dream from me, or this person brought me so much pain, unless he wants to go and attack the stairs that are in Koshiro's house, and stuff for what they did to Kuina. Um, recent episode stuff, for flashbacks. And so there's that. I'm like, Nami, I already talked about like Nami and Arlong and like possibilities of what could happen there. Sanji kind of already got the chance to face down his father in regards to dealing with Judge and his brothers and stuff like that during Whole Cake. So that's kind of been done for that. Usopp, I mean, like, now I'm quite certain that Usopp would be able to handle Kuro quite easily, and that would not be a problem. Usopp could handle Kuro very easily at this point in time. Um, and he kind of got to stand up to Kuro anyway when stuff was happening on Syrup Village and everything with Kaya. And I'm like, well, I mean, like, and then you hit Chopper, and I'm like, well, okay, let's talk about Chopper and Wapol. So, in regards to the way that Chopper and Wapol's relationship is that it is a different type of hatred than what happens with Nami and Arlong. As I stated with Nami and Arlong, it is this exceeding thing where it's like it happens over a long period of time, starting off in a very bad place. Anyway, yes, both Chopper and Nami lose a parent somewhat seemingly because of this, directly in regards to Nami's case, in regards to Arlong killing Bellemere and stuff. But the thing is that with Chopper, and Wapol, it's just like when Chopper first ate his devil fruit and was kicked out of his herd, Wapol didn't have anything to do with that. It's not like Wapol was going around and talking to all of the deer and being like, hey, you see that blue-nosed one? Get him out of here. I don't like him. I don't want no blue-nosed reindeer in my kingdom. You get rid of him. It's not like Wapol did that at the time. It might have not been Wapol that was king at the time. It might have been Wapol's father at that point in time. I don't know. Don't think we ever got a name on Wapol's father anyway. But like, so, Wapol was not directly responsible for that. Wapol was not directly responsible or any way, shape, or form responsible for that, or in regards to like Chopper when he did eat the devil fruit being, like ostracized and having all the citizens scared of him and everything. Wapol didn't really have a part of that. That was just, I mean, as much as I hate to say this, if a giant Yeti looking thing kind of showed up in my backyard, I would be a little bit more like, okay, why is this here and what does it want? And please don't hurt me. That type of a thing. Particularly if it happens like in the middle of a blizzard, that would also be a thing where it's just like, okay, I'm staying in my house now. It would be that type of thing. So, it's just like Chopper's pain for those two things isn't caused by Wapol, whereas with Nami, everything's fine until like until, Arlong shows up for the most part. Yeah, she's not very happy with the fact that her and her mother and sister are, poor and don't have a lot of money and that type of stuff. And Nami has to have hand-me-downs and things like that. But for the most part, they're happy. And then Arlong shows up. But with Chopper, dark laughter. But with Chopper, it's like Wapol's not responsible for him being kicked out of his herd, has, no reason for why, Chopper gets, scares the humans and stuff like that. Wapol doesn't really even know that Chopper exists until, what happens with Hiraluk. When, Hiraluk, goes to the castle and everything and, makes himself disappear. And, Wapol doesn't even really care about that. He just wanted to get Hiraluk out of the way because he either wanted Hiraluk to come and work for him or to lock him up or whatever, so he would have all the doctors working for him, barring Kureha. And, so there's all of that happens. And then there's, Hiraluk does his big, amazing speech and everything. And then we know what happens. And what ends up, and then from there, it's, Chopper shows up and he tries to attack and Dalton stops him and, makes him calm down and, sends him on his way and everything. And, after that, Chopper probably is definitely not interested in being near Wapol, but like he goes and he lives with and is raised by and trained by Kureha and everything that happens there. And yes, they're still on the island for however amount of time that is. It's not like they leave the island while Wapol's in charge. And then, Wapol continues to, terrorize the people of the island for the next however many years. And, until Blackbeard shows up. Blackbeard shows up, scares Wapol away. Wapol leaves, and then, like, Dalton kind of becomes the de facto leader of the island. Kureha and Chopper are the only doctors on the island. And we see what happens there. And, like, Chopper and Kureha just like, yeah, we're just going to go move into the castle on top of the mountain. Does anybody have a problem with that? Okay, good, bye. And they just go and live there. And for like a couple of months or whatever the case is, after, Wapol got scared off. And, so we see that. And then of course, when, after Luffy and Nami and Sanji get there, and then, Wapol shows up, Chopper has these moments where he is, he's having to face down Wapol. And for the most part, I mean, yes, he's, somewhat scared of Wapol, and yes, he more has to deal with, Kuramarimo and, like, chess and stuff like that, is who Chopper generally has to deal with during that fight, and then Luffy deals with, Wapol, and he's the one that does the finishing blow on Wapol and everything. But, of course, we also have the images of, Wapol attacking, Hiraluk's flag and stuff that's flying above the castle. And, Luffy protecting that and Chopper being, like, ingratiated to Luffy because of that. And seeing that and everything. And, we kind of see Chopper, even within that battle with having to deal with Wapol and everything like that. Like, Chopper, it's been a while since I've watched the episode, so if I watched the episode or read the chapter, so I don't remember Chopper, like, really hesitating when it comes to trying to fight Wapol and trying to make Wapol go away. When him and, his, henchmen show up at the castle and stuff, Chopper is there and he's ready to fight Wapol. And there's not, no, Chopper's not quite strong enough to be able to deal with Wapol on his own, and Luffy is the one that does defeat him. But, unlike with, yes, Chopper has, like, those traumatic moments that are somewhat there because of Wapol in regards to what happened with Hiraluk, and probably any other various small points in time where he maybe had to deal with Wapol, but I don't think he had to deal with Wapol that much. Him and Kureha were mostly in hiding while she was training him, and, probably still going around and, visiting villages and stuff like that and taking care of people. But, like, I guess Wapol just never cared enough to go and try to actually full on find them, or Kureha was far smarter than any of Wapol's plans. more leaning toward the second one in that regard, with Kureha just being too smart for Wapol. Um, then again, there are a lot of things that are smarter than Wapol. A lot of things. And so we have that stuff where, as opposed to like Nami and Arlong, where like Narlong was this figure in Nami's life like every day for a good decent chunk of time, and then even when she was gone for a while to do her treasure hunting missions and stuff like that, and when would she come back, she would still have to then be there and put on this act of being, part of Arlong's crew and being loyal to him and everything else. Whereas Chopper didn't really have to do that. It wasn't this day in and day out of having to deal with Wapol. And, yes, Chopper was still very young when a lot of that stuff happened with Wapol and Hiraluk and everything, and still very life-altering and everything like that. I'm not diminishing that, but it was a different kind of thing than what Nami had to go through. And Chopper does kind of get the moment to like somehow, face up against Wapol during that, the battle on, by the in the castle and everything, or near the castle, front of the castle, whatever. And, Chopper does get the chance to face off against Hiraluk at that point in time using his different, guard points and everything like that. And, he is the one, I believe, that defeats, Chess Marimo and everything and takes all that. And, from there, Luffy, yes, is the one that, defeats Wapol and sends him flying all the way through part of the Grand Line into one of the other blues and makes his own, lands in a trash pile in a kingdom, and via the buggy version of luck and failing up, he ends up the king of the island. Which, the thing is that while Wapol didn't really like Chopper, didn't like the Straw Hats or anything like that during those interactions that he had with them, Wapol, didn't really seem to hold a grudge against Luffy or Chopper for him landing on what would become the evil Black Drum Kingdom. It's not like he had a grudge there because he ended up in a much better situation. He's not in a frigid island anymore, and he's still king, and he's probably a lot richer than he was on Drum Island. Plus, he's married to, Miss Universe and Cinderella and everything. Who seems to be just the right type of wife for Wapol. And, so Wapol doesn't really have a reason to hold a grudge against the Straw Hats. Yeah, Luffy beat him, but it's not like Wapol was, his arrogance didn't necessarily come from his strength. Necessary, he had the munch fruit and everything, still has the munch fruit, but there's not really, his power came from what he could eat, and he just more liked to eat than anything else. And so there's a lot of that, and it gets slightly touched upon in like Stampede, where we just like see him there and everything, and it's just like, why are you here? You don't have a reason to be here. You're just a throwaway Easter egg type of a thing. That's the only reason you're here. Same thing with the only reason Red Foxy is here. So, there's those moments. And yeah, I know Stampede's not canon, but still, it results in funny images of Wapol looking like an idiot. So, yay. And Foxy looking like an idiot. Not that that's an exceedingly hard thing to do. But, the thing is that if Chopper ever ended up interacting with Wapol again, I don't see maybe Chopper would have like a slight moment where he like freezes up for a moment when he sees that it's Wapol, but I don't see him having to have like that same kind of like inner turmoil moment that like Nami would have had, like that Nami could have, like what I mentioned in the other video, where it's just Chopper's like, I already beat you once. Whereas with Luffy, or with, Chopper's variation of it, like, I already kind of got to face you once, and given everything else that I've been through, kind of the same thing with Nami, he's just like, everything else that Chopper has been through with his battles, with all of the different cures that he's found and everything like that, with like what we saw him achieve on Wano, with, the getting rid of the Isoni virus and everything like that, with dealing with, all the confidence that he's gained and everything like that in regards to like his guard points and all of his different transformations and everything. He mastered, he mastered his monster point and everything, and hopefully that'll just get even better and better with all that stuff. That, Chopper went up against Queen. Chopper fought against Queen. And no, he didn't really do a huge amount of damage to Queen, but he still fought him, and he still beat him on the, ethical level of everything, of like being a scientist and a doctor and everything. He still beat him that way. But, with Chopper going up against Wapol, just like Wapol probably hasn't really done any form of like training in the last 2 years since he last saw Chopper and the Straw Hats and everything. And if anything did happen where like the Straw Hats ended up interacting with Wapol again, which I'll get to in a moment, I don't see there being an issue where like Chopper is gonna have to be like, oh my god, it's Wapol, what am I gonna do? And it'd just be like, oh wait, no, I'm fine. I'll just kick him at my kung fu point and I'll be good. It's just like maybe Wapol got a little bit stronger. He's definitely got a little bit more interesting in how he uses his powers when he makes the Wapol metal. Also, in that regard, the Wapol metal was used to make the Frankie Shogun. I have no freaking idea if Chopper knows that the Wapol metal was used to make the Frankie Shogun. We as an audience know. Frankie knows, but I don't know if Frankie knows about like the connection to Wapol and the Straw Hats and Chopper. I don't know about that. I think I mentioned that before in a different video where it's like, I don't know if that is like, if he's aware of that connection, of that history. And even if he is, Chopper may have been like, well, I mean, if it's a really good material to use for the Frankie Shogun and stuff, then I don't see a reason why you shouldn't use it. That type of a thing, all of that could happen. Like, it's not like we ever know of that type of a conversation. That would be an interesting, SBS question to send to Oda. Hey, Oda, does Frankie know about the connection between Chopper and Wapol and the Wapol metal? And if so, does Chopper know that that's what the Frankie Shogun is made out of and that it's made by Wapol? Like, is he aware of that? Like, that would be an interesting SBS question. But, it's like Chopper really wouldn't have that much of an issue to deal with Wapol. Just like, it's not like he wouldn't be able to deal with him pretty handily himself now. Given everything Chopper's been through, that shouldn't be an issue. And the thing is that we know Wapol's current location is with Vivi and Morgan's, in Morgan's little teacup, newspaper office, flying teacup newspaper office. And, we know that Wapol's there. And, I guess that means that there is a chance that if Vivi could get Morgan to take her to where the Straw Hats are, to Egghead or whatever, or something along those lines, that Chopper would have to end up interacting with Wapol again. And again, there's the whole thing of like, Wapol didn't seem to hold a grudge against them, so I don't think he would necessarily have a huge issue there beyond him just being Wapol and a jerk. And, Luffy and the others really wouldn't have a reason to, like, at this point in time, I'm quite certain that even if Chopper could take him out, I'm pretty sure most of the Straw Hats could just, like, one-hit KO Wapol at this point in time. Anyway, just like let Nami electrocute him, let Usopp throw some of his green stars at him. We're good. Some of his pop greens at him. We're good. Wapol's fine. Although Wapol might try to eat some of the green stars, and that would be green pop greens, and that would be kind of an interesting thing that would happen there, I guess. But it's not like the others wouldn't be able to handle him exceedingly easy. Luffy can just Gumu rocket him anyway, and he's gone, if he gets that annoying. Or just Chopper can do it himself or whatever. It's not like there's a big issue there. So I don't really see a whole lot of there being this problem with like Chopper having to face Wapol again, if that ever happens. When it comes to some of the other Straw Hats in regards to like facing down like a demon from their past, I'm like, we already talked about Chopper. I guess like Vivi having to confront Crocodile again would, I guess, be something there. Stuff to do with like, I was like trying to think of like Robin facing down Crocodile, I guess a little bit, considering there was like, they do have that past, but he's not exceedingly responsible for all of the trauma she went through as a kid. For Robin, it would be more having to face down like the Gorosei and stuff like that with everything that happened with Clover and her mother and everything. And she kind of already got to face down Spondum and everything. So there's that. Um, Frankie already also got to like kind of face down against Spondum and everything. So there's that. So, um, there's not that, yes, they still have people in their past that like cause them harm, but like they've already kind of gotten to face them down in that regard, or they were able to have already moved past that trauma by the time they were able to do that. Brooke, barring somehow finding the pirate crew that poisoned his crew, which I highly doubt is going to happen, I highly doubt they're going to be anything major. There's not really that much for that. And, he already got to, kind of help face down against Moria and Ryuma and everything with that. So that's kind of been avenged. And then for Jinbei, I mean, I don't know. There's not really a whole lot of other, like, a dark person from Jinbei's past that we haven't heard about before that would have had that like horrible traumatic experience for Jinbei, unless we like get another flashback for Jinbei that's like him as a child, which we could get someday. I don't know. We'll find out. We've seen him as a child in sketches, but we haven't really gotten a whole lot of like flashback of Jinbei as a child. But I don't really see there being any other ones where I could talk about like the Straw Hats or like a specific Straw Hat having to face down this specific demon from their past. The main one I wanted to talk about was Nami and Arlong, which I already did. And then I did want to talk about a bit about like Usa or Chopper and Wapol, simply because of the fact of like with Nami, there's like this huge deep-seated over, the course of like 10 years version of hatred and having to deal with that and like bury it deep inside of her when having to deal with Arlong and the rest of his crew and everything. And there's that. Whereas with Chopper, it's just like he could openly talk about how much he hated Wapol, and like Kureha probably would have listened if Chopper even did that. That doesn't quite seem like something Chopper would do on like a daily or weekly or monthly basis or whatever. And it's not like he probably had to deal with Wapol that much. Kureha would definitely be smart enough to avoid falling into any of like Wapol's traps and stuff. So there's not really much else there. There's not really a whole lot of other ones that like the Straw Hats have had to deal with beyond Zoro and fighting those stairs that took out Kuina. That's gonna be Zoro's final opponent at the end of the series. He's gonna defeat Mihawk and Shiryu and any other swordsman, and he's gonna go back to the village, and he's gonna go back to his teacher's house, back to Kuina's old house, and like go to his teacher, and he's just like, "I'm here to face my enemy." What? Why did you just destroy my stairs? They took Kuina from me. Just like, okay, Zoro, calm down. It's just like I can't really think of any other ones that would be like these major ones that the Straw Hats would have to fight again. Because like, yeah, Luffy's now had to technically fight against Lucci again, and Zoro's kind of dealt with Kaku again with what's going on Egghead and everything. But I don't see there being like a huge amount of like, oh my god, what are we gonna do now? It's just like, unless Luffy has to go and fight Kaido again, which I don't think is going to happen, because either Kaido has been turned into a molten bagel or something like that, or he is fully dead, or whatever the case may be, or he's just like, he's been soundly beaten that he's like, nope, I'm not fighting again, I'm done. I got beat by a rubber boy, and a bunch of other, I got beat by a rubber boy and his friends. There's that. They beat me and they beat Lin, so I'm not gonna deal with them again. I don't see that happening. And like, if Luffy did end up having to fight Katakuri again, it would be like a battle of honor type of a thing, because that's the type of pirate and the person that both of them are. So, and like, Luffy didn't like hate Katakuri. There wasn't like a deep-seated hatred against Katakuri. And even up against Lucci, it's like Luffy was angry at Lucci because of, Lucci and CP9 taking away Robin and what they did to Iceberg and stuff like that, and framed him and his crew. There wasn't like this whole huge backstory where like Lucci was the cause of like Ace's death and the cause of Sabo's death and like all this other stuff. It's just like, no, Luffy didn't know he existed until like 2 days ago type of a thing. So it's just like, there's a lot of that happens, but I'm like, there's not really a whole lot of other like super traumatic villains that the Straw Hats have had to deal with over the years. That's like the super traumatic figure that was like this ever present thing in their life while they were growing up. Barring, Garp showing up and throwing Luffy, Ace, and Sabo into the woods at various points in time, and then tying them to balloons and sending them flying or down into a valley or something like that. Because Garp. Garp. Oh, Garp. Garp. Um, but I mean, like, we might get a slight update on Wapol again with like what's going on with like him and Vivi and Morgans and stuff like that. But again, I don't see there being this huge issue if he does end up seeing the Straw Hats again. For various reasons beyond the fact of like all of them can punt him to the moon very easily if he did make any of them angry. I'm sure, well, I was going to say, I don't know how much training Vivi has done in the last 2 years. Hopefully she's at least kept up on her like peacock slashers, and maybe she's done some other training with like, some of the other guards and stuff like that to get herself stronger and stuff like that. So she's at least able to help if it comes to like fighting, and maybe, I don't know if she'd be able to take on Wapol, but she'd probably at least be able to like hold him off for a little while if something did happen. But I don't think Wapol's stupid enough to try to, attack her during this instance that's going on right now. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have thoughts about like someone else like the Straw Hats having to deal with in that regard, please put them in the comments below. So that's what I have. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.